Good morning everybody and welcome to Shropshire Council's Cabinet meeting of Wednesday the 5th of June. I am obliged to inform you that this meeting is being live streamed and recorded, and can I just remind members to state their name when speaking so that members of the public online know who is talking. Moving on to the agenda items. Item number 1, apologies for absence. We have apologies from Councillor Julian Dean this morning and also from Tanya Miles, Executive Director of Place, who is, currently being interviewed by the CQC, so we wish her well in that. Item number 2 is disclosable interests. Anybody have disclosable interests around the room today? No. Okay. Moving on to the minutes. I am happy to propose that the minutes of the 17th of April are correct. Do I have a seconder?
Councillor Ian Ellens, Deputy Leader. I'll second.
Thank you. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 4, public question time. We have one public question from Adam Pfeiffer, but I believe, Tim, are you going to be reading it? Thank you. Over to you.
Thank you. The question is this. Recently, Shropshire residents were informed that around 300 council staff will be made redundant in order to help towards the massive £62 million savings needed by Shropshire to balance their books this year. What is the planned ratio between managers and directors as compared to frontline staff from those who are being made redundant? Will managers at all levels, from directors downwards, be made redundant, as well as frontline staff? When the current reduction in staff comes to an end, will the final figures of the numbers affected and their management level be published?
Thank you, Tim. And the response from Councillor Gwilym Butler.
Good morning, Councillor Gwilym Butler, Portfolio Holder of Finance and Corporate Resources. Thank you for the question. The voluntary redundancy programme is open to all staff, that excluding schools, and applies to all levels in the organisations, managers and frontline staff. The window for applications closed on Friday the 19th of April 2024, and we are now in the process of reviewing these to determine which can be approved and therefore which posts can be deleted from the establishment. As part of this decision-making process, we will be reviewing structures. Individuals who applied are now in the process of being notified. Until this is completed, we will not be in a position to confirm numbers. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwilym. Moving on to item number 5, which is member question time. First question comes from Councillor Peter Broomhall. Where are you, Peter? Come and join us at the front there, when you're ready.
Councillor Peter Broomhall, Wem Division. I would like to know how long after the highway technicians have applied the white paint around the potholes do they wait before they repair the hole. Along New Street in Wem, the potholes had white paint around them, but after several weeks it has worn off and the repairs not completed. From the doctor's surgery in Wem down to Brazeley Way, it is so dangerous with all the potholes, especially for cyclists, because of the uneven road. In fact, the High Street and the Aston Street in Wem are very uneven still after repairs have been carried out.
Thank you, Peter. Response, Councillor Dan Morris.
Thank you for your question, Peter. Councillor Dan Morris, Portfolio Holder for Highways. Shropshire Council has developed a digital twin database for the highways asset. This means that all potholes are photographed on inspection and are geotagged, giving us a very precise pothole location. Geotag photographs are also taken when the work is completed, giving us a 360-degree perspective on both the problem and the solution. This system ensures that the paint markings are not required to identify the problem and fix it, whether applied by a technician or an inspector. The impact of the wettest spring on record remains with us, and regretfully this means that sometimes the temporary marker paint has gone before we get to repair the pothole, but the digital twin allows us to track and resolve them. Service improvements such as a remarkable 29% pothole productivity improvement in April 24 compared to April 23 highlight the important difference between a failing asset and a failing service. which leads to the more for less challenge and should serve as a timely reminder to support our valued services where appropriate.
Thank you, Dan. Peter, do you have a supplementary?
So could you tell me when these potholes in New Street will be done? Because they've been there for several months now, probably 5 or 6 months. And they are dangerous. They're quite deep potholes now. And they're in the middle.
I'll ask the team to look at it and come back to you directly.
Thank you, Peter. The next question is from Councillor Rob Wilson, but I had a message yesterday to say that Councillor Evans is going to read it on his behalf. Over to you, Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. And this is, as you say, from Councillor Rob Wilson. I am concerned by the inaccessibility of many footways in the county due to overgrown hedging and vegetation, which, in places, makes more than half the footway unusable. Often, this is due to private hedging and vegetation. Though most householders maintain their boundaries correctly, the council has the power to request and then enforce action on the minority who do not. Since 2009, when Shropshire Council was established, please can you provide annual data for how many letters have been issued to householders requesting that they cut back hedging and vegetation which is overhanging the footways? How many of these cases resulted in the council cutting back said hedging and vegetation and issuing a payment demand to the householder? How many of these cases resulted in the council having to take further action to recoup its costs?
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Response, Councillor Dan Morris.
Thanks, Roger, for the question. The service recognises the importance of encouraging and facilitating walking and cycling. The acute financial pressures all councils are experiencing also means that prioritising our available resources is essential in order to operate within the financial envelope. Issues around overhanging hedges and vegetation are generally identified by members of the public or picked up on routine footway inspection. In order to make this more efficient, we are encouraging more of these types of issues to be reported via Fix My Street. Where these issues constitute a safety hazard, the council will instigate discussion with the responsible party to take action. However, in most instances, these will be low priority. However, a request will be made to take proportionate and appropriate action. Last year, Shropshire Council issued 248 letters to individual property owners.
Yes, Chairman, this is Councillor Wilson's supplementary. It is disappointing to not get a full reply to the questions asked. This is not a matter of finances, it is a matter of priorities. Local authorities are permitted to recover costs where landowners allow vegetation to impinge on the footway. Pedestrians are at the top of the hierarchy of users in LTP3, but it's clear that vulnerable road users are being let down. Please, can Shropshire Council conduct a social media and public information campaign about landowners' responsibilities under the 1980 Highways Act, including why it is so important to keep footways fully accessible?
Councillor Morris.
Thanks, Roger. If you could email that question to me, I'll get that picked up immediately.
Yeah, I'm sure once the election period is over, we can do something about the Rob's point about social media. Last but not least, Councillor Bernie Bentic. Councillor Bentic, if you'd like to come to the front there, ask your question when you're ready.
Thank you, Chair. On the 29th of February 2024, I hand-delivered and emailed a letter to Tim Collard and the Democratic Services from the Shropshire councillors representing Bellevue, Meal, Radbrook and Port Hill, requesting explanations for the incoherent and substandard plans for Phase 1 of the Meal Active Travel Quarter, which did not conform to LTN 120 guidance, and requested an urgent meeting to discuss the issues in view of the declared short timescale for submission to government. 2 months later, no response was received and no meeting was arranged. Would the portfolio holder, 1, please provide a response to the letter, 2, arrange an urgent meeting as requested, 3, explain why local members weren't closely involved in drawing up the plans, having contributed considerably to the original bid for government funding, 4, explain the reason for the delay in response, and 5, explain exactly and in detail what, if anything, has been sent to the government, and if nothing, precisely what will be sent and when. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bentinck. In response, Councillor Ian Nellens.
Thank you very much. I can confirm that the response to your letter has now been sent to you. Unfortunately, this delay was due to the project officer being off work, and I apologise for that delay. The support of local members is greatly received when securing grants. However, it is not standard practice for members to be involved in the designing of schemes, and not something that I or Councillor Hersnipe were involved in either. The team have updated all elected members on the recommended schemes and the final design throughout the process. With regards to government involvement, the team have monthly meetings with Active Travel England, who are the grant provider. The scheme has been discussed with them to ensure they are meeting their grant expectations and increase the likelihood of receiving funding for the building of the scheme. The grant provider will receive a finalised design and report in the coming weeks. As previously mentioned, the officer responsible was unwell, and that was why the delay in the final submission. Thank you. Thank you,
Councillor Nellens. Councillor Bentinck, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, please, Chair. The letter of response was superficial and did not go into any detail. There were 3 meetings with the active travel officer which were cancelled at short notice and not reconvened before the 29th of February 2024, and this is over the course of 9 months. And so there has been very little communication with local members about these plans. So can I ask, please, when will the portfolio holder convene a meeting with local members, as requested urgently on the 29th of February 2024 and was not mentioned in the response? When will Sweet Lake Meadow residents and I receive a response to the petition submitted in February 2024? And the delay in the response to this is, in my view, completely unacceptable. When will the Community Information Levy funded Toucan Crossing and associated works on Longdon Road commence, as they were due to start in summer 2023, and the dangers on that road persist? Which precise active travel guideline was used in constructing the proposed changes to the Roman Road / Longdon Road roundabout, as none of the guidelines appear to have been applied to the proposals for that roundabout? And finally, will Shropshire Council and the portfolio holder please advise who is currently responsible for active travel in Shropshire Council, as the officer who was in charge of this activity has departed from the council, and it is very difficult to get a response from relevant officers. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bentinck. Councillor Nellens, I imagine some of that will need to be a written response because it crosses portfolios. But...
Yeah, well, first of all, thanks for all those questions. If you send me that email, we'll get them answered. But just a few things off the start. First of all, I'll bring you back to the point that the design, all due diligence is done on this. It goes through the design team. Members have to remember where their position is and where things are handed over to officers with the consultees in order to get those things done. Secondly, we did have a consultation which went out. 70% of those people involved in the consultation, including the schools and also some of the local road safety groups, were in favour of what has gone ahead. So there's a little bit of disparity in what is coming across from you, which I think we probably need to clear up. We can get a meeting. We have got people. The active travel team is still up to date with people, and we can let you know who the points of contact are there. But if you send me those, take you got that in email. You send me those questions, we will get them responded to.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Bentinck. So that brings us to the end of members and public questions. Item number 6, scrutiny items. There are no scrutiny items today. Item number 7 is the financial outturn 2023-24. Councillor Gwilym Butler.
Thank you, Leader. It's Councillor Gwilym Butler, Portfolio Holder for Finance and Corporate Resources. We had a very constructive debate on this paper at scrutiny on Monday, cross-party, and I think it was a useful conversation. If we go back 12 months at the start of the financial year, I reported that we had a very bumpy road ahead of us, and my goodness, we did. However, to get the outturn out on time, and I firstly want to start by congratulating James, and I know Ben is listening online, and the whole of the finance team for actually navigating us down that bumpy road, and for bringing forward the changes we had to do. And we brought forward through the quarterly midterm financial strategy reports. But obviously it doesn't end there, because the finance team obviously bring the finances together, but this is the biggest amount of savings this authority has ever made in a 12-month period. And our heartfelt thanks have to go out to all the staff who've actually made that happen. And not only that, what I'm actually seeing, and I think I speak to my colleagues, is a culture of change, a culture of being up for the challenge, for the sustainability of this council. And there's an awful lot of learning has been done in the previous financial year, and hopefully that will put us in good stead as we move forward into this year. But I'm also feeling that gone are the days that we can only think of the finances for a 12-month period. I know in the midterm financial strategy we do it for 4 years, but we only really concentrate on the year we're in. We've got to be looking at year 2, year 3, year 4 in much more detail to say we're ahead of the game on it all. That's how I feel, and I think it would be wise, and I actually think we're doing that, but I don't think we say it enough. So, also, I think a lot of the savings plans that were started in the last financial year, we should start to feel the benefits of those coming forward in this financial year, but also need to be aware that the ones we actually start this year, we may not feel till next year to the full extent. And that goes to compound that ongoing process of evolution. And finally, I don't think there's many councils in the country that actually gets their accounts signed off by the 31st of May on time to government regulation. So congratulations, James. Well done. I move the recommendations in 3.2. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Gwilym, and I'm happy to second that. It has been, there is no easy years, are there? But again, I'd like to add my thanks to the finance team, and I also want to say thank you to the portfolio holders as well, because I know that a lot of the work you're putting in with your teams, you know, it's different over this last 4 years. The work that you're doing is different to what's been done in the past. So thank you for that. Roger?
Thank you, Chairman. I note the recent comments in the media about the financial outturn and trying to, and my words, to put a spin on it to say the council has successfully negotiated the year. Yep, that is strictly correct. And I join with Councillor Butler about congratulating the staff in bringing this report out. It is good to see this report now to give an indication where the council is. But really, I would use the word as a bit disastrous. Many targets have not been met. And if we look at the overspend for this last year, there are £30 million of reserves or others injected into it, and there was still an overspend for it, which leaves the council at a disastrously low level in its general reserves. The general reserves went up by just £1 million. In April, it was proudly said that we put £20 million into reserves, and they're now at 28. And now we're being told this current year, at the scrutiny on Monday, reserves are £38 million. Yeah, but if you overspend and do not anticipate the increases that are coming down the line, this council is in trouble. And I can pick out certain items in it, and I did at the scrutiny meeting, which I did pick up. But to say that we've taken £10 million out of the earmarked reserves, we've got £20 million put in of the £20 million that went in originally. So really, if you look at this current year, £62 million, if we save 80%, and we say that was a good saving for the year in question, that is £48 million saved. That's £14 million short of what the budget was put forward by this cabinet and said it was there. And if one looks at the Shropshire plan, and this was mentioned in February 23, we will put our resources in the right place using accurate data, insights and evidence to support the delivery of the organisation's priorities and balance the books. I got fed up of hearing last year, we have a plan. The plan is a little bit, when one looks at these finances, we finance team was successful, managed to complete the year with and increase the reserves by £1 million, but £8 million, when reality is they should be up at £30 million for this council to feel safe, and it is at risk. And as I said on Monday, whoever is in charge of this council, I like to be in charge of our own future. I don't want others to have to come in and sort it out for us. But looking at this and the £62 million, and it was intimated that there are already some extra costs which we did not anticipate having to be met. I wonder where we will be come the autumn. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Councillor Buckley.
Thank you. I'm sure that you're going to expect me as a politician to talk about the failures of the budget and the errors that are made and why we end in this situation. But I won't do that today because I don't need to, and because actually other people who are completely politically neutral are saying that for me. Later in today's meeting, we will look at the performance report, which highlights areas where we have failed to deliver what we were supposed to deliver. And in that list of failings, you will find the end-of-year budget report. It is objectively listed as a failure. So I share Councillor Evans' surprise that your comms and your approach to that you somehow think that achieving 81% of the savings we were supposed to deliver could be considered any type of success. Likewise, auditors will have their views about our reserves being only at 7.93 million, when the legal suggested safe level should be no lower than 15 million. You don't need me as a politician to tell you that is half of what it should be. What concerns me most of all is the lack of control. So the amount of work that our finance team are having to do to salvage this budget, to keep reporting on an almost weekly basis, is because the pressure in social services is out of control. And I believe that's because we rely increasingly on third parties, so private companies who set the pricing. And in your own report, you talk about, particularly for our young children, the end-of-year report, the additional £6 million overspent on commercial placements for young people. So it's time we started looking at different models of delivery where we move away from putting the responsibility on private providers who set the price beyond our control. In order to control this budget, we need to be delivering some of these services ourselves. And I hope that in the future we bring back more control on our budget, and that will take pressure off our budget team, who are constantly chasing this out-of-control pricing. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, we had a good debate at scrutiny, and I'll just recap on some of the issues that have perhaps been raised here. When we actually put the budget together, it was actually the November or December prior to the February 23 when we actually put it forward. And obviously to understand what the actual demand the homelessness, the cost of electricity is going to be in January 24 is actually quite difficult because we don't have a crystal ball. And I don't even know at this stage what the minimum wage is going to go up in the autumn, and I know it will do, and we will put an element of that moving forward. And I know we do put an element of pressure into the budgets. Going back onto the actual outturn itself, the outturn is just over an overspend of just over 1% of the gross budget and an overspend of just over 2% of the net budget. Now, if I spoke to other colleagues in my position across the country, they would bite my hand off, believe you me. Now, and also I'd also like to state, over the years, we have been criticised. Why are you putting so much into reserves? Over the years, they should be spent. They should be put into other services. They should reduce the changes in the services and don't put them into reserves. The whole point I put stuff into reserves is to have that contingency programme for that bumpy road so we could actually deliver when the demand pressures changes, when inflation changes, and anything else, such as CQCs, such as Ofsted reports, that actually need us to actually do things that effectively are out of our control. But I'll take the points they've raised, but I don't agree with them. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Finally, one point is perhaps it's a bit unusual. Councillor Evans, could you just read out that paragraph that you mentioned about the Shropshire Plan for me? That you said, in the Shropshire Plan it says...
Thank you. So, in the February report, and I think it was the one that went to Council, it included these words. And it's in 2.1 of that report, where it says the Shropshire Plan was approved by Council, and then in italics, this sentence is there. We will put our resources in the right place using accurate data, insights and evidence to support the delivery of the organisation's priorities and balance the books. And the balance the books is the important part in this for the future.
Thank you, Councillor Evans, because actually that's exactly what we've done. That's exactly what this organisation has done. We have looked at our priorities, we have looked at the demand, we have looked at the demand using data and insight and all those things, and we have balanced the books. Actually, we've done better than balance the books, because at one point last year, and Gwilym will remind me, it was a scary figure of 11 million, I think. Actually, working together as a team, and I mean a team, not just the officers, but with the portfolio holders as well, we have reduced that planned overspend. So the Shropshire Plan in February said, we will focus our services on our priorities. We've done that. And the very last point says, and we have come in with a balanced budget, and we have done that. Gwilym's point about the way that that we are managing reserves is, as I keep saying to people, we are in unbelievably choppy waters. I think there are now 19 councils, and there will be a lot more in the coming months, I am sure. But we remain in control, and we've done that by looking at the way we manage our resources and manage our priorities. So the comment that you've just made in the Shropshire Plan in February, we absolutely have achieved that. I have a proposer, I have a seconder. All those in favour?
Can I come back, Chairman?
No. Thank you very much indeed. The mic's gone off. Moving on to item number 8. I'm sure what you were going to say, Roger, you can crowbar into item number 8. It's the Performance Monitoring Report, Q4 23-24. Councillor Rob Macy.
Thank you, Leader. Obviously, this is for Q4 of 2023. We're now up to 86 indicators, all being provided through the interactive performance dashboards. Those dashboards are also pulling in more data from the Power BI dashboards that we're putting in place across the organisation. So we're getting a lot more live data coming through where we have it available. There are still more indicators planned, as you'll see later in the report, to come through. So that will just continue to be an evolving sort of process now. The report notes notes in section 8 that we've got improvements in important targets such as recycling rates and the number of households in B&B accommodation dropping. But the main purpose of the report is the 11 exceptions that are listed within there. So with that, move the report.
Thank you. Have I got a seconder for that one? Councillor Carroll, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Chairman. It is an interesting report, and I look at the exceptions, and I picked out some on Monday morning at the scrutiny meeting about FOIs, for example, where we're at 76%, and we should have been improved. An officer gave me the answer to it, but I'd be interested to hear from the Cabinet members. But picking out the report itself, in 6.6, the percentage of streetlights converted to LED. This is something that I've been hammering on for the last 8 years. I put forward a fully costed budget, sorted out with officers, to start converting the lights in Shropshire to LED lamps and save an estimated £1 million a year. 2017, £1 million a year. We're now in 24. That would be £7-8 million on those prices. We would be better off now. I've asked the questions all the time about what is happening. The various Cabinet members who's looked after that have assured me it was going to be completed before the start of last winter. It was going to be completed in the financial year just finished. If one looks at that, target was 98%, 88% is what is converted. That is a dismal failure, both financially and on climate change. If one goes around the parish councils of Shropshire, mine included, you'll find that they changed to LED lights a long time ago because they recognised the longevity of the lights, the climate that would be improved by using them, and also the cost savings. The SALEX funding has now all finished, and we're starting to repay it back because it was said that we were going to wait to borrow the money from SALEX at 0% when we've got money in the bank earning, I don't know, 0.5%, 1% at that time. It is a real dismal failure, that. And then if one looks at 8.7, the environmental permit inspections completed, and as I said on Monday afternoon, that is a statutory inspection, and again, we're below 80%. What is happening here? We should be doing more.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Julia.
Hi there, yeah. So my concern here, so there were 11, you call them exceptions, but they are clearly failures to meet the targets set out in your own Shropshire plan, so for those key performance indicators. As I mentioned earlier, objectively, your end-of-year budget outturn is listed on this list of things that we failed to achieve. But more concerning to me are the first 3 indicators on here, which all relate to our young people, further evidence that we're letting down the young people of Shropshire. So we've got length of assessments, how quickly we are or how slowly we are assessing young people for their additional needs. Stability of placement for our children in care. This is such a serious indicator that we saw also from our Ofsted inspection, that we must get on top of that. And finally, and repeatedly, the failure to deliver our ECHP, those educational care and health plans, to deliver those, to have them issued within 5 months. I must sound like a broken record. You must be so bored of me raising the same issue at this Cabinet meeting. Every time you present this performance report, I have to call you out for failing our young people on these ECHPs, and you give me excuses as to why you're on the case, you've got a plan and it's changing, and the next quarter I have to come back and I have to raise it all over again. It's not tedious, it's disgraceful. And I've done a bit of research to find out why it should be any worse for Shropshire than it is anywhere else. First of all, we have in your own report, you claim that there were 31% more ECHPs in this financial year to last year, so a total of 205. In other words, that you've had an increase that you've had to look at. If we are not delivering ECHPs within 5 months, all of those 205 should have been delivered last year. That is not a growth of children in the current year. That is your backlog of children you failed to support last year. So we need to really get on top of this. The national average for ECHPs is 17%. Do you know what Shropshire's average is? The percentage of children with ECHPs? It's 15.9%. So we are dealing with a lower than national average number of children. We are so behind that the first 205 kids we've helped this year were last year's children. I'm sure you don't want me to keep coming back and raising this, but somebody needs to speak up for our young people. The number of parents that contact me as a counsellor, never mind in all my other roles, to tell me this is the number one problem, that they can't get support because they can't even get their ECHP either assessed or over the line. We need to start prioritising the children in greatest need. I don't want to have to keep raising this with you.
Thank you. Dean, and then Dan, I don't know, okay, and then Kirsty.
I just wanted to come in, and if you excuse a little bit croaky, I've got quite bad hay fever for the last few days, so my voice and my nose aren't what they could be. But I just wanted to come in with some positives from the housing and assets portfolio. Every single one of our indicators is green, on target and heading in the right direction, particularly around temporary accommodation and use and bed and breakfast. We've been increasing the amount of temporary accommodation units available, increasing the amount of support available to households who fall into homelessness and have need of temporary accommodation. There are more and greater volume of temporary accommodation units coming on stream within this financial year that will bring that target down even further. And compared to lots of, or the majority of other local authorities where we know use of bed and breakfast is actually rising at rates far greater than we saw even 2 or 3 years ago here, when we were alarmed by the increase. The fact that our usage of bed and breakfast is falling shows that our commitment to developing our own in-house temporary accommodation measures is paying off. And the second thing that I'd like to draw attention to, and it sits a little bit within my portfolio, but also largely within Councillor Nellin's portfolio, is the number of households in fuel poverty, which is below target, but importantly, that we have started within, I can actually see the figures now because my laptop's restarted itself, but we've started additional projects to support and bring more people out of fuel poverty. So amongst all the negative comments that have been made on 11 of the exception targets, I think it's important that we also draw attention to there are far more KPIs where we're actually performing extremely well. And I just wanted to put on record my thanks to the Housing Service for the huge amount of work that they put in to reduce our reliance on B&Bs and ensure people at risk of homelessness are in far more suitable accommodation.
Thank you, Councillor Carroll. Councillor Morris.
Just to come back on the street lights that Councillor Evans raised. The project of installing LED lighting in Shropshire was initiated in January 23 with a budget of £4 million and a timeline of 2 years. As at Q3, 84% of Shropshire's streetlights were LED, just short of the 88%. During Q4, work to convert the streetlights has continued, but the target of 98% has been missed, with only 88% of streetlights converted. Updated feedback from the service is that it's not possible to complete 100% of the streetlights. For example, lanterns cannot be converted. Information and numbers around this are awaited from the service, but at the time of writing have not been provided. The project delivering the LED lighting is due for completion at the end of June 24. So I think we're at the point now where the easy wins have been done, and it's the really hard bits, the changing of the infrastructure, that that we need to get on and tackle. But 84% is just short of the 88% target, and we haven't finished the project yet, Roger.
Yeah, just one of the things some of them you can't convert. You've literally got to put in new. new columns and everything. Kirsty next, and then Gwilym, and then Councillor Evans.
Just regarding the comments from Councillor Buckley on the EHCPs, I welcome her apology because quite frankly it's insulting to think that I don't care, and I'll gladly pass it on to the officers that are working incredibly hard on the backlog. Just to bear in mind, it's not just the local authority. We have the new action plan that has been agreed at the last SEND Partnership Board. All agencies have agreed that the backlog will be cleared by December. Now, that will be an intensive this term working at the backlog, and then with increased demand, the run-up the academic school year, September to December, getting on top of the demand and the new EHCP requests that are coming in. So, yeah, there is a plan in place. It's been agreed and supported by all partners and agencies involved. Thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Leader. I think it's for the sake of people listening in as much as anything, just to clarify the doom and gloom that may be being transmitted from the other side of the chamber. If we look at the overall picture, there is 11 exception indicators, but 76 other indicators which are doing okay. Yeah? So we're only looking at about the indicators, about 12-13% are failing, something along those sort of lines. The ones that are doing okay include staff turnover, on or below target, staff sickness, on or below target, agency rates, at or below target, council tax collection within tolerance levels. I won't go on. EHCPs are clearly an issue, but this is also a national issue, not just a local one, and we are flagging it as an issue to be addressed transparently by government. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Evans.
Thank you, Chairman. Picking up the Cabinet members in their order of replies, housing and assets, it is a problem for the area, and I think a number of councils have appealed for government for assistance, but a Cabinet put together a budget for those areas there, and if one looks at the financial outturn for last year, on page 14, budget was £50,000, actual spend was £112,000. Housing and assets, budget was a minus £752,000. Actual spend was 1.3 million. And go over the page here, you'll see housing and assets, minus £181,000. Actual spend was a plus £341,000.
Point of order, Leader. I thought we'd moved on from the budget to the performance monitoring report.
We have.
We are, but it shows here where we are with it, because there was also a £1.4 million rebate. But however, to go on to the monitoring report, I am told by one parish council, who buys their energy from Shropshire Council, that they're having delays in receiving their reduced energy bills from Shropshire Council, because they're given 3 months, 4 months notice before any alterations can be made. So the actual savings that parish councils are making, Shropshire Council is getting, and not passing it on straight away to it. It has to go through, I don't know what sort of procedures here, but there are delays incurred by it. And I know that parish council has written to Shropshire Council asking when their bills will be reduced. And that is LED lights, of course. And 98% is the target, which is here, and I understand there's some that can't be done. What I am saying is that why weren't they done? Why didn't we do it 10 years ago? Because that's when Staffordshire started to do it. I brought it forward then, and we're still only at 80-something% now.
Thank you, Roger. James, are you aware of anything regarding? Lots of my parish councils buy their energy through us, and I've not heard that. But
yeah, I'm sorry, Chair. If the details can be sent through to me, then I can certainly have a look at it. But I have no idea.
I can talk to you outside the meeting, Chairman.
No, if you, to be honest with you, Roger, if you just
and Jane.
Yeah, if you get it through, because then we'll look at that. Because I've certainly not come across that, so I will look. Sorry, I have a proposer and I have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to item number 9, which is the Treasury Management Update, Q4. Councillor Gwilym Butler.
Thank you, Leader. To Councillor Gwilym Butler, portfolio holder for Finance and Corporate Resources. Again, this is a piece of housekeeping. It is an update on the Treasury management of what we did in Q4 last year. I won't go into too much great detail on the report. It is general how the council and other councils run their finances, and I'm happy to just move the recommendations in 3.1. Thank you.
Thank you, Gwilym. Do I have a seconder for that one?
Councillor Cecilia Mockley, portfolio holder for adult social care and public health.
Thank you very much indeed. Okay, no hands around the room. All those in favour? Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 10, financial monitoring period 1. Councillor Gwilym Butler.
I'm just waiting on my laptop to reload. It's nearly there. There we go. Right, thank you, Leader. Bringing this period 1 report, this is the first fully itemised period 1 report that this council has actually brought to Cabinet, and I'd just like to go through the history of how we've done the reporting previously. When I took over the portfolio, we had quarterly finance reports that still come to Cabinet, but they were often delayed, and we often didn't get them until a month or 6 weeks later, depending on the Cabinet dates. And we had one midterm financial strategy report, which was the budget that was addressed in December for full consultation and then agreed in February. When we realised the journey we were going on, we needed to be far more transparent. I initially brought in quarterly midterm financial strategy reports, so we could actually see how the organisation is what I call is cooking financially. And then following on from that, last year, we did realise even before we started last year that we needed more figures on a more regular basis. And so we asked for monthly figures, and obviously to get the systems in place around the whole of the organisation was quite a challenge. And we did get financial figures out, but there wasn't as much detail as we particularly wanted. But how that is growing and how the evolution of the council now comes is that we now have what is in front of us for period 1 of this financial year. Now, it is quite difficult in period 1 to get all that information straight in to give us a clear picture, but the projected overspend of 29 million, obviously I'm not very happy with, but I have taken it back with the finance officers to disseminate down through EMT and ADs, etc., to sharpen their pencils and to look at things and to look at how the savings projections come forward. And we did hear from James on Monday that, and as I said on the outturn report, there's an awful lot of savings plans that are in development. And as soon as they start to become clearer, hopefully on a monthly basis, we will get a better picture. However, although we are projecting at this stage a £29 million overspend for this financial year, because I have repopulated the budget with £30 million worth of reserves, and we had a far better outturn last year of the general fund balance of £8 million, even if it was that worst case scenario, we would still have a general fund balance of just under £10 million. So, on those bases, Leader, I move the recommendations as set out in item 3 to be noted, but I also look forward to receiving period 2 and period 3, and we get far more detail and meat on the bones. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Butler. Do I have a seconder for that?
Yeah, Mark Jones, portfolio holder for growth and regeneration, although I don't seem to be Doctor Who, I don't seem to regenerate that often. I'd like to talk about regeneration. I think Andy Begley deserves, the leader, the Chief Executive deserves a lot of praise for the things that he's brought forward, the transformation that the whole council is doing. We're having a lot of comments from a lot of staff saying how good the organisation is and how well it's been led. People like Andy and Ben J and James are doing a fantastic job, and I think some of the things that we're coming up with now are fantastic, and they'll be good for the next any organisation that takes over from us or in the future. I think we're setting a good standard, so I commend the report and second it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. I did make a comment at the scrutiny meeting where this was also considered on Monday about the projected revenue outturn by service and the number of comments about in development. And I do recognise this is period one, but we were supposed to be saving £62 million over 52 weeks, which is over £1 million a week. And to see at the end of April in development still for those plans was a little disappointing. But what I was going to pick out today, rather than reiterating that point, was the capital receipts delivery that is here. If one looks at this report, 9.1, there is £10 million shortfall in capital receipts to actually deliver the programme that the Cabinet put forward, red-ragged and not identified, and that would incorporate in us, the council, having to borrow money, which will then have repercussions for future years. There are other items as well which may affect capital receipts and income elsewhere in the council, which it might happen, but I am concerned both at the in-development ones comments there and how much of those £62 million to be saved is over £1 million a week, and we are now into June. If we haven't met those targets, it means that the amount to be saved per week, per month, per quarter from now to the end of March is even higher. And as I referred to earlier on, 81% of £62 million leaves a shortfall of 14 million. And this last year, we've covered that report already. I will repeat again that earmarked reserves, one-off, £10 million was removed and brought back into the general reserves in order to balance the books. That reserve is no longer there to be used for this current year. So we, the council, needs to look at how it's planning to save the £62 million. Period one, it will change, and I look forward to seeing quarter two. And I will congratulate both the finance team for producing this report and for Councillor Butler for letting us see it and to see where we are going, because I think the whole council, we need to work together to actually make this sort of saving, and that's why I've identified the areas which are of concern to myself.
Thank you, Roger. Julie?
Thank you, yeah. So just 1 month into the budget year, we now have a forecast spend variance over budget of 29 million. So 1 month prior to that, we were presented with the end of year budget and how you would balance the books with the £62 million saving to get us to a balanced budget. So within the first month, we're now predicting a forecast overspend of 29 million. And it feels very much like what was happening at the end of the last financial year, that we are chasing our tails, that as fast as we can identify things to sell off to bolster your capital receipts, reserves to move across, as fast as you can do that to balance the budget, external pressures are increasing the budget, the spend on this council. So every month or every quarter that you're coming to us, the gap is continuing to slide between our fingers. And I believe that's because 78% of our budget goes to third parties who control the price of what we are paying for. If this continues, the next time we meet you with period two, how much more will this have slipped? How much more will those pressures have grown? And we need to understand, when we're projecting and profiling forwards, what is the rate of acceleration or deceleration within these pressures, which are, I know, largely in social care, but we need to understand the direction of travel so that we're not surprised each quarter that the gap is continuing to grow.
Thank you, Councillor Buckley. I will come back to Gwilym in a moment, but I don't know about you, Cabinet, but I'm constantly surprised because we live with this day in, day out, as do the officers. We deal with this day in, day out. And you come along collectively, opposition, and state the obvious. I think it's quite insulting, actually, that you sit there and say that we need to look at the demand. We need to project, look at, what the situation is going forward. I don't know what you think we do on a daily basis, but, if we weren't doing what we were doing, this council would be in a very different position to what it is now. And I take, thank you, Councillor Buckley. Thank you. I take Gwilym Councillor Gwilym Butler's point earlier on, that what I'm hearing from across the local government family is, in some ways, far worse than what we're experiencing at the moment, because we've had the foresight to work with our reserves in this way and to look at balancing the demand on some of our services. You know, I can tell you now, there was, in fact, I think it came out this morning, a number of councils are predicting a 50% increase on their temporary accommodation budgets this year. If that was in our hands, that would finish this council. But we've made plans earlier on to deal with this. And it's the same with some of the demand management in social care. So, you know, we deal with this on a daily basis. And it's not easy. Nobody said it was, but we're dealing with it on a daily basis. Councillor Morris.
This fascination with bringing things in-house and this way of it's all going to be all right if the glorious state provides it and does it and sorts it out and make it more efficient. I mean, your ideas were put before the budget and they were universally dismissed by people that looked at it. And for you to sit here and think that it's a panacea or a silver bullet to bring in and bring everything in-house so that the state looks after it. You look at what's happening in highways. In highways, we've got a mixed economy model and we're up for an award in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. And you want to go and take that and just wipe that all away. And you absolutely think that by the council employing staff instead of getting private sector experts and people subcontracting some of it out in the way that we do in highways, and you think that's a panacea and you think that's a way of rescuing the budget. You genuinely think that?
You've just brought highways back in-house with drainage because it's so successful. So actually, your
but it's the mixed economy. Julia.
Excuse me. This is not a conversation either of you. Okay? So, thank you, Councillor Morris.
I've finished, thank you.
Councillor Butler.
Thank you, Leader. If I could just get Cabinet and others to look at page 94 of the report, of the whole agenda report. It's section 8, which shows the savings delivery, and we have the chart there of the savings target, and it actually shows that we have indicative plans to actually deliver 61.49% of the savings, and as of end of April, which was 6 weeks ago, there is only 23% which is undefined at the moment, which is around 14.3 million. Now, as I said in the outturn report, what this organisation has, the culture has realised, as last year, we know how we can deliver those savings, but they may not be delivered by the 31st of March this year. They might be delivered on the 30th of April next year. And that's why we have, if you look at the table above that, oh yes, I put another 30,584,000 into reserves to guide us down that bumpy road. And as far as where I'm looking, we're doing the best we can. We've got a contingency plan, and as the savings roll out, if it can't be delivered straight away, we can try and do it. But I will try and get as much of that savings in the bag this year. And if we can get 80% this year, we want to go for 100, but, you know, there'll be a gold star if we're over where we did this year, and I'll have the reserves higher than I did at the end of this year. I can't offer you much more than that, Leader.
No, absolutely. Okay. I have a proposer and I have a seconder. All those in favour? Thank you very much indeed. Moving on to, excuse me, I think I've got your problem, Dean. Moving on to item number 11, which is the recommendation for the Adderley, Mortonsay and Norton-in-Hales neighbourhood plan to proceed to referendum. Councillor Chris Schofield.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Chris Schofield, portfolio holder for planning and regulatory services. This report seeks agreement that, subject to the identified modifications, the Adderley, Mortonsay and Norton-in-Hales three parishes neighbourhood plan meets the basic conditions and all the other legal requirements. The purpose of the referendum is to determine whether there is community support for the three parishes neighbourhood plan to become part of the statutory development plan. The examiner's recommendations have been reviewed by officers in liaison with the parish councillors via Adderley Parish Council, who have acted as a qualifying body throughout the process. As such, the three parish neighbourhood plan group and the three parish councils of Adderley, Mortonsay and Norton-in-Hales deserve immense congratulations for reaching this stage. Should this report be approved, the date for the referendum has now been confirmed as the 25th of July 2024. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Do I have a seconder for that one, please?
Councillor Ian Nellens, I'll second.
With no mean feat to do that across 3 parishes either, so they do deserve our congratulations. All those in favour? Thank you very much. They can now proceed to referendum in July. Item number 12 is the exclusion of press and public, so I'm happy to propose that.
Councillor Nellens, I'll second.
Thank you. I'll just wait now for the nod that we're no longer live.